Free Talk Live. Welcome to the live Saturday edition of the program. The phone number for you if you want to join the show and bring up whatever is on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Beakless Mountaineer,
and the Reverend Captain Kickass is here.
Coming up in the show tonight, we're going to find out what the kind of porn website OnlyFans has to do with the terrorist watch list.
With Meta's terrorist watch list.
Yeah, that's all news to me. We can get into that a little bit later on. Plus, Captain, you want to talk about the use of force in self-defense and when is it appropriate and how far can you go with it, that kind of thing. But the big news this week, of course, is that Donald Trump got raided this week.
Yeah, seems like some folks around here might know something about that, at least have some firsthand experience with it.
You mean like how our studio got raided last year? And the households of several of our friends and co-hosts?
It's not the first time.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're looking for a pattern, if you're willing to consider for a moment that folks in power don't really appreciate the views or the topics or the subjects that we present here on a radio program that's rated in the top 25, or at least was last year and the year
before. By Talkers Magazine.
By Talkers Magazine. The fact that we come at it from liberty, freedom, voluntarism, peaceful resolution of problems, that they have some problem with us, it seems, if you consider the number of times.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
But it did come as a surprise to me that Donald Trump would be targeted. Now, Peakless, you've made the argument before on the air that Trump isn't quite on the inner circle of the political class in D.C.
Clearly not.
He's an actor.
So he's in the club, but he's not in the VIP section.
I mean, he used to pal around with Jeffrey Epstein. They used to be neighbors.
Right. I mean, he's not exactly on the outside of power by any stretch of the imagination, but
you don't get to president.
Exactly.
And be on the outside.
They have a special VIP section with their own little wacky rituals that you have to go through where they get enough dirt on you where they can trust you with power.
Right.
And he didn't go, he cut the line basically, and they're really, really upset that he did this, and as such they want to, discourage anyone else in the club but not in the VIP section from basically cutting past the velvet rope of their own control structure. So this whole thing is just a little, hey, don't anyone else try and cut the line here.
I have a couple of different thoughts about the whole thing. Since when it happened, I was genuinely surprised. I'm like, what?
This was, I think, on Monday, so you weren't on the air at the time, right?
Correct. Okay. Correct. But I saw it pop up on Twitter first or something like that, one of those social media places, and then I went and looked for, sure as crap, there's an article about it, somebody doing breaking news,
right?
And so I was like, okay. And so I, read a little bit about it, and at first I was kind of surprised, but at the same time, if the people who are in control are just simply switching puppets every, 4 or 8 years or whatever.
Strong argument for that.
From one puppet to another, then if you look at it from that perspective, it's entirely possible that all they did was kick off Donald Trump's campaign.
Well, the theory, I think, is that should charges come from this, and generally when the FBI raids a place, a lot of times charges come from it. I mean, that's usually the intention behind that raid, is to gather more evidence with which to then bring some sort of criminal charges. Should that happen, there apparently was some kind of U.S. code. It was referenced earlier on the show this week. Yeah. Somebody found a piece of the U.S. code that says that if if anybody's convicted
under investigation, then
I don't think it's just under investigation. You'd have to be convicted. If you're convicted of this particular criminal act, which has to do with ferreting away documents,
what he can't run or he can't win,
that he cannot run for political office. So that may be the angle here, is if they do bring these charges and they manage to convict him before the 2024 campaign season kicks off, then he's out.
See, now that you've told me that, all of this should have been predictable, because they have been doing everything in their power to make sure that he doesn't run again. I mean, they have floated, can we say that he's insane? Oh, no, that's not going to work. Okay, can we do this? No, that's not going to work. Well, let's try this. And, impeaching him is not working either. Ah, God.
What do we got?
What do we have left? Because, God, these people, they think they get to actually choose their leaders, and we can't let them think that.
Well, and what's sad about that is, I mean, Trump is no more a rebel than, I mean, Joe Biden, really.
Really?
Like, I mean, when you think
about it. He's part of the system, for sure.
And so, if you want to vote for nothing that we've ever had before, because you still
built
think
the wall
you
and
still think
drained the
voting works
swamp.
for some reason. If you want to, Donald Trump is not the rebellious candidate. He's just the guy that you used to have a little while ago that totally screwed things up even more than the guy who had it before, who totally screwed up even more than the guy before. And it's almost as if they're planning to screw this up monumentally, drive everybody into debt, make everybody more poor for some reason, and just continue to have their thumb on you and gain more control over you.
Yeah, it's pure mythology that Trump was in any way going to drain the swamp or change things in Washington, D.C. I mean, he kept a lot of the bureaucrats right where they always were.
He made the swamp bigger.
He hired them. He gave them a raise.
I mean, he brought in, what was it, John Bolton at one point, who's a total warmonger.
Oh, yeah.
And
should have brought in Michael Bolton.
So many different
He'd
terrible,
have been a better choice.
Horrible human beings worked with him. But, I mean, again, I think you're absolutely right, Captain, that it's just one step after the next towards total tyranny, total oppression. And
seems to be the case to me.
Yeah, he didn't slow this down in any meaningful way.
And apparently the FBI director that he put into place is the very same one that is presiding over this raid.
What are you insinuating, Ian? That there's something there?
That's just entertaining. That's all. His hand-picked man now raided his house.
It's the WWE, man. When you watch the WWE and you're like,
and he was on WWE,
and
by
you're
the
like,
way.
he was, and you're like 10 years old, and all your friends have convinced you that this is real. You're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And you see the two sides sort of fight against the good guys and the bad guys, right? That's exactly what's happening in front of our eyes today in political theater.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and I got to say, he definitely deserves this. Because, I mean, if you look at all of his rhetoric, like when he's talking about red flag laws, we can get around to due process later, but you gotta jail them. First and foremost, you gotta put these people in cells. Then we'll think about having a trial later.
Well, so far, no cell for Donald Trump. In fact, he wasn't even present during the raid.
And for terrorists, man, you gotta murder their families. It's really important that you go after the innocent people that are connected to people you don't like.
He was tweeting about it, though, when it was happening.
It was, because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He was in New
York. It's like he's given the play-by-play of his own raid somehow.
So, I mean, if that's your basic policy and your way of approaching justice, then frankly, you deserve more than this. You deserve at least this.
Well, I think the big benefit to this, if we can look at the good side of what happened, is that it is showing, hopefully, some of the people on the conservative right that there is no safe place as far as from the federal government. They'll even go after your top agent, your top politician is not safe, and the police are not your friends. If we can help get that message out to some extent to these people to wake them up from their Blue Lives Matter dreamscape, then I think this is good for that.
I must have dropped the footage of the raid here that's posted up on the Odyssey channel.
Yeah.
In response to everybody going, I can't believe the FBI raided Trump. And I was just like, well, if you want to see what a raid really looks like, watch this.
Yeah. I mean, they raided us last year, and then later they raided Project Veritas the very same year. Multiple people from Project Veritas had their homes raided by the FBI. So this is nothing
new. Are you sure we shouldn't just trust the plan? Make sure that we don't try to solve anything. Yeah, exactly. It's 12D chess. There was another Q drop. We just need to trust the plan, guys. Don't bother to fix anything or change anything.
The science is settled.
So there's an update here from Politico.com on what exactly ostensibly was going on. Because for a couple of days, the FBI was completely silent. There was no information about what they were up to or, what. Normally when they do a raid, there's usually some kind of press release that comes out like, we're targeting such and such because they're a dastardly criminal and we're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent. Well, in this case, this week, I think it was the Attorney General came out with a public statement saying that the AG himself signed off on this particular raid. So this went all the way to the top, while the White House was claiming they didn't know anything about this happening.
Sounds like democracy.
There's more coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in, share your thoughts. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. It's the live Saturday show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Apparently, they're investigating Donald Trump for a potential violation of the Espionage Act. that was one of the reasons why they went into his home earlier this week.
They're calling him a spy again.
Not officially yet.
Are we back to Russiagate again?
Maybe. We'll see about that. The number is 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything. Here tonight, it's Ian.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And the captain.
Prague is going to be host to the Free Cities Foundation's annual conference. It's their second one. It's called Liberty in Our Lifetime. Our very own Mark Edge, co-host here on Free Talk Live, will be speaking at the conference. They'll be showcasing autonomous cities and intentional communities springing up around the world, offering opportunities for settlers to live freer lives. The conference theme this year is Parallel Structures for Progress, and Free Talk Live listeners like you get a special 20% discount by using code FTL20 when you check out over at lifetimeliberty.com. Code FTL20 to save 20% on the Liberty in Your Lifetime conference. They are on Twitter. Handle there is @LibertyIOL if you want to follow them and get updates on what's happening. And then, of course, you can go there yourself October 21st through the 23rd, lifetimeliberty.com. Code FTL20. You can meet Mark and watch him speak about, I'm going to guess, Honduras and the Zedes, but I don't know for sure.
I'm sure he'll talk about it if you ask him.
I suspect he won't talk about anything else. But check it out at lifetimeliberty.com. We go to your calls and thoughts. We can talk more about what's going on with Trump in a moment, but you can bring up anything. Law Dog in Michigan. You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, thanks for taking my call,
yes.
guys. There was an event that the governor had, Gretchen Whitmer. It was called Grilling with Gretchen. There was about 300 people there, and she caught some COVID, and I guess they had to shut the place down, except there's an after-hours party there. It was called, I believe it was Chilling with Gretchen. They had some craft beers and some craft wines there, and they had a special guest star. They were George Clinton and the Funkadelics. They broke out their a 1973 hit tune and dedicated it and serenaded Gretchen with it. The name of the tune was The Nappy Dugout.
The what?
I guess that's a joke.
The Nappy Dugout.
That's a joke, like, because she's nappy, and that's the idea there. I guess he's gone. Okay, bam, he's out.
I mean, that's the rule of radio, right?
Yeah.
You make the joke and you cut him loose. He did it for us,
Yep,
so thank you, Law Dog.
It was complete
hilarious.
Although, yeah, like
absolutely hilarious.
Perhaps next time tell something a little more funny.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like your typical this is not a conservative show. We're libertarians here on Free Talk Live, but that's what you hear on conservative talk radio is just calling names of the other side, and it's just so stupid. It's so low and mindless. There's so much that you can criticize about politicians besides how ugly they are or whatever. And they are ugly. There's no doubt about it.
They do have a homeliness problem.
If they were better looking, they'd be celebrities instead.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's basically the same gig, zero accountability, fame, wealth, respect.
More power, though, than you'd get in, like, Hollywood or something like that.
Well, yes and no. I mean, like, I see what you're saying, but, like, if you become a really famous star in Hollywood, you can, number one, you can bend a lot of politicians to your will.
True.
Number
you can become
two,
a politician.
You can purchase, right, that's where I was going with that. Number two, you can purchase your politicians if you're wealthy enough. Number three, you can just go into politics. I seem to remember that the last president we had was on some TV show somewhere. So
that's right.
Yeah, we probably
Ronald
shouldn't
Reagan
forget that the wealthy, of course, can buy more freedom than the poor.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, was governor of California. Jesse Ventura, governor of Minnesota, I think it was.
Yep. I got a Jesse check. I think
I'm looking forward to President Dwayne Johnson personally.
Is he going to run, do you think?
I believe he will one day.
I would like Chris Rock to be his VP.
I hope we don't have presidents anymore before he can finally get around to running.
Well, I'd like to live in your imaginary world for a little while.
I just want to see the Rock and Rock
At some point, this thing's
bill.
going to end. I mean, at some point, the United States is going to not look like what it currently looks like today.
But
there may not be as many states. It may not exist at all.
Washington will have sway over some area somewhere. Like they're
like Washington, hopefully, and that's it.
Like New York,
it'd be great.
New York City is never going to be in a different country than Washington D.C. That's
You
just
don't
how
think?
it is.
Oh,
absolutely not.
I don't know, man. I think it's time for people to get ahead of the ball and recognize that the united part of the United States of America needs to go ASAP, and we should embrace the divided states of America now.
I agree.
Everybody
National
just
divorce.
go back to, it was supposed to be a union of smaller countries and, all working together for, things like defense or whatever. It's obviously failed and instead become the largest empire the world has ever seen. Period.
I think things do change over time, Peakless, and
Sure.
the odds that
I'm not suggesting that New Hampshire is not going to secede.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to suggest that California, Florida, Texas. I mean, these places are likely to secede.
Why wouldn't New York
not
want to
as
secede?
likely as we are? Oh man, I mean, so for one thing,
They're just that obedient there.
well, for one thing, like the Boswash corridor. I mean, this is basically a singular unit. These are more like boroughs of a single city than they are like different cities. I mean,
Maybe, but New Englanders kind of think of themselves as their own people to some extent.
Sure, but I mean,
culturally, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure, but I mean, so do people from Manhattan think that they're a different culture from people in the Bronx.
Okay.
Which is true and untrue. I mean, this is like, they are different, but they are really part of the same thing. And in the same way, New York, Boston, Washington, D.C., these are all part of a single culture. They're different boroughs, they're slightly different subcultures, but really, this is one unit. Now, the rest of New York State very well might secede from Washington, D.C.
That'd be great.
And boy, would it would help everyone living there, that's for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
No doubt about it. If you want to join the show, the number 603-283-6160. So we were talking earlier about the Donald Trump raid this week by the FBI. And
it makes it sound like Donald Trump performed a raid himself.
No, he was the supposed victim.
It was the greatest raid of all of the raids that could have ever been raided.
It was huge.
So they finally came out
raid,
with
the biggest ever.
Some information, including the search warrant. And according to a receipt, they claim, because whenever they take things from a location, they have to write down, unless they put it in their pocket and don't write it down. But generally, they are supposed to write down what it is they're taking, from which room, and that kind of thing. So according to this, they included a handwritten note that Trump allegedly possessed, documents marked with TS/SCI, which indicate one of the highest levels of government classification, and another item labeled Info, President of France. The warrant shows federal law enforcement was investigating Trump for removal or destruction of records, obstruction of an investigation, and violating the Espionage Act. Conviction under the statutes can result in imprisonment or fines. The documents, which are, by the way, the charges that the Crypto 6 are facing, Aria and I are the remaining two facing those charges. We're going to trial. They're just simply saying things like, oh, well, you didn't tell the whole truth to the bank, so you're going to prison for 30 years per charge. Here it's like, you might get a fine, maybe some prison time, but you don't have to have both for, espionage.
I think it would be great if it came out that a bunch of this was planted by the investigators.
Yeah, that's always hard to prove.
Yeah, but it'd be great if it did.
Just us system.
Yeah, I mean, if we could really level the playing field like that and say, guess what? Even the richest and most powerful people in America are just as likely to have evidence planted by police.
We will continue, and you can share your thoughts with us on the Trump raid or whatever happens to be on your mind. Plus, coming up, we'll get to the story about OnlyFans. What's going on with them and terrorism lists? It's Free Talk Live.
Does this ever happen to you? Moments after you're introduced to someone, you forget his or her name. It's a common faux pas you'll want to avoid, especially if you're a job seeker. And even if you're not, here's a tip. As you are being introduced, and while you're still shaking hands, smiling, and making eye contact, say the person's name aloud. Not only does that make a deposit in your memory bank, it acknowledges the other person. And that is more than a nuance, as is maintaining eye contact. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer with a look back at the week's top stories. A U.S. federal judge released documents related to the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home following a request from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The 7-page filing shows that FBI agents seized around 20 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Some contained information listed as classified or top secret. The search warrant cites possible violations of the Espionage Act, which covers unlawful retention of defense-related information that could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. It also cites laws prohibiting the concealment or destruction of documents to obstruct an investigation and the unlawful removal of government materials. The former president's lawyers have argued that Trump declassified the documents before leaving office. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The bill, a major boost for U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, represents the largest climate investment in American history, with targets to reduce carbon emissions by up to 40% by the end of this decade. FSN's Benji Heyer has more.
The $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act, a flagship component of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, can now be signed into law by the president, having been approved by the Democrat-controlled House. In it, a number of policies aimed at lowering prescription drug costs and cutting the deficit by roughly $300 billion. One of the major objectives is to bring down carbon emissions by 40% below 2005 levels, though that falls well short of the 50% reduction promised by President Biden just last year. Republicans also warn the bill would limit investment and drive up inflation. Benji Heyer, Washington, D.C.
A man has been arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public appearance in New York. Iranian religious leaders have a long-standing reward offered for anyone who kills the author after accusing him of blasphemy. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
Salman Rushdie was being introduced on stage at the Chautauqua Institution in western New York State on Friday morning when a man rushed the stage. The author was stabbed in the neck and was initially treated at the scene before being taken to hospital by helicopter. The interviewer from the event was also slightly injured. New York State police say a male suspect was immediately taken into custody. Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran in the 1980s, with many Muslims considering it to be blasphemous. It led to him receiving death threats, with Iran offering a $3 million reward for anyone who kills the writer. Sarah Walton, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. The phones are open, and you can join us here. Bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kick-Ass Buckshot Esquire, if you will.
I want to say thanks to Elephant in the Room, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program. Elephant in the Room was able to sign up over at amps.freetalklive.com.
We're not going to talk about him, though.
We are, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we have to talk about him because we appreciate his support, or her. Could be a her. Don't know. You can go to amps.freetalklive.com and sign up there. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. If you like what we do here on Free Talk Live, then help us out for as little as $5 a month, which is what Elephant in the Room is doing over at amps.freetalklive.com. You get some cool benefits from doing that, and it helps us spread the ideas of freedom.
That's it. This is an historical episode of Free Talk Live.
Why is that?
Not only have we addressed it, but it was one of the founders of Free Talk Live that has finally addressed the elephant in the room.
Let's go to the phones and to the fun. John is in Delaware. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what the world elites did to Nelson Mandela is the same thing that they're about to do to Donald J. Trump, and it's no difference. He's going to be a political prisoner. These people have already gone too far. They've been after this.
You think they're going to lock him up?
Years. Sir, 100% they're going to lock Donald Trump up. That's their objective, my friend. Haven't you been watching what's going on?
Will he Epstein himself?
Ooh.
Excuse me?
When they lock him up, will he Epstein himself?
That's a possibility, sir. I believe that there's already been assassination attempts on Donald Trump by these so-called world elites, the people that are the puppet masters, the people that are really pulling the strings, the people that aren't elected by we the people. It's a sabotage, it's a takeover. They started taking this thing over a long time ago.
So what do you think that they're trying to stop him from doing?
Sir, these people and they're going to start suppressing us and chipping away at our freedom. You don't see it, my friend?
They're going to start suppressing us?
A long time ago.
John, they've been suppressing people for decades.
Don't know if you know, but this studio was raided.
Against these. Let me ask you a question,
He's just
my
ranting.
friend.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not ranting.
Well, you're not stopping. People are trying to talk to you, and you're not stopping
and
to
ask you questions.
To hear what they're saying.
Go ahead, fellas. Go ahead.
Okay, so what do you think they're afraid that he will do that they're going to try and stop him from doing by arresting or assassinating him?
He's afraid that he's going to prosecute all these losers that have been coming after him for 7 years, because what these people do is they project. They use that as a weapon. It's the only weapon they use. They use it really good. They perfected projection, man. They got it down to a science. They project everything that they're up to behind closed doors that the public doesn't get to see on Donald Trump and the people that support him. This is what communists do when they take a country over. They've already got people in all the powerful positions. They've taken over all the institutions, and they're coming after us, man. What do you think all these IRS agents are for? They never carried service revolvers in the IRS before. These guys are paper and pencil pushers. All of a sudden, the
IRS has had armed agents previously. That's not something new.
You can look it up. It's historical. If they want to go ahead and buy their own service revolver, yes, they can. But they're one of the only alphabet organizations that's not issued a service revolver paid for by tax dollars.
Wait, are you saying they don't have their own SWAT team?
I'm not too sure about that.
As far as I know, every part of the government does. I mean, the Department of Education has its own SWAT team.
Almost every federal bureaucracy, from what I understand, has men with guns that, essentially their own police.
I believe the Department of Education has its own SWAT team. These people are like the Gestapo as well. If they're going to arm everybody against us, can I ask you guys a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you had a friend and the friend lied, and they cheated and they stole from you and they made promises to you that they could never keep, and they used your struggle as like a podium to advance their own narrative and their own cause, and they brainwashed your kids, would you consider them a friend?
No, obviously that's not a friend. What's that?
No, man. So why would you consider them for president? Donald Trump
why would I consider
for president. 2024, guys.
None of us are considered.
I mean, you've called this show a bunch before, and it's weird because it's like
Donald J. Trump. He is
weird,
your friend
man.
Because the enemy.
John, he's not my friend.
Enemy.
No. He's not my friend.
He's done all of those things, actually.
Yeah, I mean, imagine
he murders children. He steals from people. He lies to people continuously and without cease. He is just every bit my enemy.
The strange thing is John has called this show on a myriad of occasions in the past. I recognize his voice. He calls from Delaware. He listens to us on the radio there. And prior to the Trump raids, he's been a heavy critic of government on this program. So it's like, he's not new to this show. He knows that we're critical of all sides, right or left or whatever. But it seems like he's gone off the rails in the last week. And yeah, I can't believe that he actually believes that Donald Trump is his friend. I mean, this guy was in office for 4 years, John, and he did nothing to make the government smaller. Why would you think he's going to do it this time?
Or to prosecute these people?
He dropped bombs just like everybody, all the other presidents before him, if not more. I think that number goes up for each president.
John, why are you still there, John? He's gone. So why would you trust this person when you've already seen what they've done? I can understand the allure to people who still haven't figured out that no matter who they vote for, it's always going to get worse. They still haven't realized that, and they hear the promises about change, and they hear the campaign promises, but this dude's been elected.
The thing about government, though, is that people get to outsource their I don't even know what to say, their sins, right? I don't know a better way to put that.
They pass the buck is what they do. They say, I can't, it turns out I can't destroy the government from the inside.
Right. So they get to outsource their guilt, if you will. over horrible things that humanity does. And instead, they just let this organization over here do it. And so what they're waiting for, of course, is like in any religion, they're waiting for the savior. That's right. And so to some people, that guy is Joe Biden. And to some people, that guy is Donald Trump. To some people, that guy is Bernie Sanders.
I don't think that Joe Biden is the savior to anyone.
Well,
no. Now his
in actual practical application, no. But during the time of the election,
normalcy
yes.
that he represents is something that they want, and the institutions and the status quo as it has been is what they want. But he isn't their savior. This is a different thing.
He was during the election, that's for sure.
No, he wasn't.
He was going to save you from Trump.
Even then, he wasn't their savior. Now
we beg to differ. Then.
I mean, why did they vote for him then? There were a dozen different choices, and they picked him.
Wanted a return to normal. They wanted a return to the status quo. They wanted a return to the pre-Trump era.
So they go from one old white guy to another even older, whiter guy.
Yeah. No. So that's the thing. Like, of the things that Trump is and is not, he is not he's not a politician. Like, he really still is not a politician.
I mean, he's an actor, so he does what he's told, right?
Depends.
Well, he is a power seeker.
As long as he's coached.
Well, he's a fame seeker. Power is a means to get more famous. Yes. That's one of the reasons that they hate him. I mean, the powerful people, that's part of why they're targeting him, is because they can't manipulate him in the same way that they're used to manipulating other powerful people.
I want to go back to what John said at the beginning of his call, because prior to this week, I would have completely blown it off as impossible, the idea that Trump could go to prison. I still would say it's probably not likely to happen. They'll probably fine him or something like that. They just want to prevent him from running for office.
Yeah, I'm still going to blow that off.
But what do you think? You don't think he could possibly go to prison?
Yeah, this is like this would be like somebody during sweeps week, right, on television, like putting forth their most controversial content.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
That's the equivalent of a PR campaign for the Trump campaign, in my opinion.
The turnout for this midterm election is going to break records.
You think so?
Oh yeah, because the lefties are going to show up because of Roe v. Wade, and the righties are going to show up because of this.
The raid on Trump.
Exactly.
And again, you've got the pitchfork people angry at the torch people instead of at the people who are in control, who are raping you of all of your value on a daily basis through things like taxation and inflation, et cetera, and so on.
All right, the number here, if you want to join us, it's 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves. You don't have to talk about the Trump thing. Whatever else is on your mind, you can bring it up here on Free Talk Live. And you can join us online anytime. Just head over to freetalklive.com, download archives of the show, interact with other listeners, and more. It's all free there at freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
The TSA increasing the invasiveness of their pat downs. They're no longer going to use the back sides of their hands. They're going to be touching
Now they're going to be grabbing it full
That's
on.
right, all over. And
what is their justification for this? I've heard this, but
that's all the terrorism that's been happening.
But why do they have to use the front of their hands now?
Well,
was there an event? Did they use a certain event where something got through that they would have felt if they'd used the front of their hands instead of the back of their hands?
They just want to encourage you to go through the new sniffing device.
What's going to be their explanation when they have to use their penis to pat you down? What is their justification going to be then? My hands aren't sensitive enough to catch everything.
Well, it's not like you can read Braille with that thing, my friend.
So your lips are very sensitive. You have a lot of nerve endings in your lips. So when the hands are no longer good enough.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Hey,
You are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless Crime Spree.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160, live Saturday show. 603-283-6160. We started out talking about Trump. Coming up, though, we can get into OnlyFans, a website.
Can we?
I guess. I don't know if it's mostly porn. I never really spent any time
I have
on
never
it.
actually visited the site, so I have no idea. All I know is that there are some otherwise attractive women in the world who apparently make a bunch of money over there.
It's sort of what they're known for, I guess. But I think in theory, anybody can put whatever content there that they want to put behind a paywall, basically. So we can get into what they have to do with a terrorism watch list. That story's on the way if we get the chance. And how far is too far when it comes to using force in self-defense? That's an issue that, Captain, you wanted to bring up tonight. But we're going to go back to the phone calls and thoughts. Your calls come first here. Let's go to Mel. He's listening online in New York. Go ahead, Mel.
Good evening, guys.
Welcome.
I'm in the bathroom taking a Nancy Pelosi and getting ready to wipe my Liz Cheney.
It's cute.
But,
Don't run out of Trump.
well, I'm listening. I'm sitting there, just waiting for Jack Posobiec to come on later on tonight. And I was just listening to the conversations. I hear a lot of criticism of President Trump.
You sure do.
And well, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like, you guys got so much criticism. Why don't you throw your hats in the ring and see what you can do for the American public?
Because I'm not a psychopath.
Well, actually, I'm running for office here in New Hampshire for New Hampshire Senate, and I don't give a damn about the American public. I want to get out of the United States and peacefully secede from the United States. What do you think about that?
Well, who's holding you back? I see everybody breaking in. I don't see anybody breaking out.
Well, we're working on it, actually. We had a piece of legislation earlier this year here in New Hampshire, a historic piece of legislation that would have been a constitutional amendment put on the ballot for the people to vote on. Unfortunately, the state reps did not see it that way, and they overwhelmingly voted it down. But it is a start, and we're
the farthest that any state's gotten in the process of secession.
Yeah, so we're working on that. We don't want to be a part of the United States anymore. Why would you want to be a part of the United States?
Because I'm an American. First of all, I'm an American-loving American who happens to be black.
But you're still an American, even if you aren't in the United States.
Well, there's no kings holding you back. Like I just said. Well,
there's no kings holding me back? You know, the number one excuse for people is to not support secession is because the federal government will bomb us to the Stone Age. That's the number one excuse. I don't think it's very realistic, but that's what people believe.
Well, I'm an American who happens to be black. My 403B was approaching $100,000, okay, prior to this criminal who's in the Oval Office just decimated it. I got down to around 30, and I had to jump out.
When is it that there weren't criminals in the Oval Office?
Well, I'll tell you what, as you just said, I was doing a hell of a lot better when Donald John Trump was in office because things were moving forward. Things were, people who, working class, was making out at that time. Now we're just being
You mean until COVID happened and then lockdowns happened under Donald Trump and then he encouraged people to put a questionable injection into their veins and was pushing that real hard? You mean that Donald Trump?
Yes, that Donald Trump.
The Donald Trump who also signed a multi-trillion-dollar bailout?
Who also gave you the choice to either take it or not. But with the
I didn't have a choice.
That was misinforming him. That those were the ones who really was behind the COVID shots.
Mm-hmm. He didn't fire Fauci, though, right?
Yeah, he sure didn't.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't fire Fauci.
Why is that?
No, he didn't.
Why?
Because when you're lied to, and you're not really
he's a victim.
He's not an MD. Fauci's a born liar, and
Trump's a victim.
He sure is, and he's been lying his entire life, obviously, provably, and with massive detriment to the American public that you love so much. And yet, in spite of the fact that he's been very obviously and to the extreme detriment of a lot of dead people from AIDS, for example, about what the truth is about these medical situations, he's still in power. Trump didn't do anything for that.
When he was testing black orphan children in New York City.
Right.
Injecting them with the AIDS virus, okay?
Right. Why didn't Trump kick him out for that?
Well, this is something that President Trump wants us to more or less feel what's going on.
How do you know what Donald Trump wants?
That would be a form.
How is that an answer to the question?
Run it back again, please.
Go ahead with the question again,
so you were pointing out some of the just absolutely stomach-turning things that Fauci has been doing long before this COVID stuff. And, why didn't he lose his position? Why didn't Trump kick him out of that position when he had the chance?
Well, could that be a form of exposure? Let people know what is happening to them. You got to feel.
How is that? How is keeping a scumbag in office who's using violence and torturing dogs and doing all kinds of things? How is that letting people know what's happening?
Well, that's one step of that ladder of the deep state that is going. It's one step of exposing the deep state.
So he's exposing the deep state by allowing the deep state guy to continue operating.
Well, I mean, if you don't go through it,
it's 4D chess. See, that's what's going on here. Well, what I'm hearing from you, Mel, is major backbending and trying your best to defend your man, when the fact is he's just another politician. He may not be on the inside track with all the rest of them, and that may be indeed why they're going after him now.
Trumpanzee.
But yeah, I mean, I just hear you jumping in, just trying to defend him no matter what, and the fact is he's indefensible, just like George Bush, just like Barack Obama, just like Bill Clinton before him. None of them made the government smaller.
Yeah, you have faith in this man that is blind and misplaced.
This has been a Trumpanzee alert.
Mel, anything else you want to share?
I did not. The vaccine was forced upon me, which I didn't take, and my job was at stake.
We didn't take it either.
I had the liberty to take that religious exemption, to put that through and see what happened.
All right, so who are you voting for in the next presidential election?
Oh yeah, real question.
Really
who am I going to vote for in the next presidential election? We'll see who decides to run. I mean,
it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Nothing's going to change in Washington, D.C. I mean, what's it going to take to get you to understand that Washington, D.C., you cannot make it smaller. You cannot make it less oppressive. It's going to get worse. It's going to shove its rules, its regulations, and its taxes down your throat no matter who's in charge.
Well, I guess you guys feel the same way. I guess you're in the same boat that I'm in. And that,
we are?
You're going to be oppressed, I guess, unless you fight back.
Well, I don't think violence is the answer. Are you talking about violence, sir?
I'm not saying, I didn't say anything about violence. I just said,
what do you mean by fight back?
Not comply. Do not comply.
We don't comply here. We're in New Hampshire. We didn't comply. When they told us to stay home, we went out and partied in Keene Central Square.
Well,
yeah, you're absolutely on the right track. But I got to tell you, if you want to effectively not comply, you got to have a community around you that's going to support you in that decision.
I talked to some guys, some guys that own businesses, bars, and stuff like that around my neighborhood. And I looked at them. I says, "Why are you guys shutting your doors? I mean, you have every right to earn a living, pay your bill. What about the guy that owns the building that you're renting your space from?"
What did they tell you? What did they say when you asked them why they closed their doors?
They just more or less melted like a couple of wet noodles. So they didn't have any really.
Well, the reality is they're afraid of a SWAT team coming in and kicking their doors in and throwing them in handcuffs and taking them down. Huh?
When you got nothing left to lose.
I agree with you. Look, hey, this is something we agree on so far in this conversation is do not comply. And I would say that goes as far as not only just not complying during the COVID restrictions, but not complying all the time. Why should anyone follow any government bureaucracy's rules and regulations? Who are these people?
Unelected bureaucrats, of course. Right. Why do I have to, go comply with what they tell me to do?
Do you pay taxes, sir?
On the face of it, sir. Yes, I do. I earn a living. I got to pay taxes.
But why do you do it?
I mean, why?
Yeah.
Because that if we all stuck together and did not pay our taxes, you don't feed that beast. The government can't grow.
Exactly. Yeah, but you do, as Peakless pointed out, you need people for that. You can't just be the lone wolf refusing now they're going to cut your head off.
And just real quick, I got to point out that it doesn't even matter if you stop paying your taxes as long as you're exchanging your labor and your goods for their money. Yep. They're going to keep printing it.
That's true. Yeah, you got to get off their money system. So alternatives like gold, silver, cryptocurrency, things like that. Mel, thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. And I don't know what in the world he was listening to. He thought he was listening to some online stream called Real America's Voice. It's like, I don't think those people would put us on their air. I checked their website. They don't list Free Talk Live, so maybe some wires got crossed somewhere, but that's like an ultra-right. That's like an ultra-right-wing religious kind of, I guess, broadcasting
organization. Hope we can reach out to those people, too.
Yeah, I mean, if we're there, that's great. More coming up here. Hour 2's next. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer with a look back at the week's top stories. A U.S. federal judge released documents related to the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home following a request from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The 7-page filing shows that FBI agents seized around 20 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Some contained information listed as classified or top secret. The search warrant cites possible violations of the Espionage Act, which covers unlawful retention of defense-related information that could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. It also cites laws prohibiting the concealment or destruction of documents to obstruct an investigation and the unlawful removal of government materials. The former president's lawyers have argued that Trump declassified the documents before leaving office. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The bill, a major boost for U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, represents the largest climate investment in American history, with targets to reduce carbon emissions by up to 40% by the end of this decade. FSN's Benji Heyer has more.
The $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act, a flagship component of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, can now be signed into law by the president, having been approved by the Democrat-controlled House. In it, a number of policies aimed at lowering prescription drug costs and cutting the deficit by roughly $300 billion. One of the major objectives is to bring down carbon emissions by 40% below 2005 levels, though that falls well short of the 50% reduction promised by President Biden just last year. Republicans also warn the bill would limit investment and drive up inflation. Benji Heyer, Washington, D.C.
A man has been arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public appearance in New York. Iranian religious leaders have a long-standing reward offered for anyone who kills the author after accusing him of blasphemy. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
Salman Rushdie was being introduced on stage at the Chautauqua Institution in western New York State on Friday morning when a man rushed the stage. The author was stabbed in the neck and was initially treated at the scene before being taken to hospital by helicopter. The interviewer from the event was also slightly injured. New York State police say a male suspect was immediately taken into custody. Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran in the 1980s, with many Muslims considering it to be blasphemous. It led to him receiving death threats, with Iran offering a $3 million reward for anyone who kills the writer. Sarah Walton, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. If you thought polio was largely a thing of the past, events in the US and the UK over the last couple of weeks will have made you think again. Authorities in New York last month urged parents to get their children's polio boosters up to date after a handful of cases were reported across the state. Now, parents of children aged up to 9 years old in London are being told to do the same. Dr. Kathleen O'Reilly is with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
Polio has still got a bit of a long way to go, unfortunately. So there are still cases in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and then we also have this vaccine-derived poliomyelitis in a number of countries across Africa and Asia. And now, of course, in London, we have evidence of circulation from sewage samples. Kids love interacting with each other and perhaps don't wash their hands as much as we might like them to. But, you know, there is the possibility of transmission of this virus, especially in people and children included who haven't been vaccinated. So now it's a real need to vaccinate to protect the community.
Polio vaccination rates in developed countries have plunged amid a widespread belief that the disease that was once the scourge of Western cities has been largely eradicated. And indeed it has, but doctors fear those gains are now at risk. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. A U.S. court releases documents connected to the search of former U.S. President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home showing possible violations of the Espionage Act. The U.S. House of Representatives passes a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And a man was arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public speaking appearance in the state of New York.
Frustrated with his increased workload and a litany of interpersonal problems, CLG software project manager William Garston brought a list of grievances Thursday to his supervisor Todd Watkins, an utterly powerless office functionary with no actual ability to resolve any problems.
Oh, no. I'm really glad that you're bringing this to me. This is great.
The 15-minute interaction, which was taken seriously by both parties, involved Garston laying out a series of work-related issues he's had recently, absolutely none of which Watkins has even the slightest authority to address.
Again, I'm sorry to be bothering you with all this stuff, Todd. I've reached a point where I was not under the... This is important. We're gonna sort all this out.
Sources added that throughout the conversation, Watkins continually nodded his head and repeatedly assured Garston that his problems would be considered a top priority, despite the fact that he lacked the necessary clout to foster any change whatsoever within the company.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here. You can join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You bring up whatever is on your mind. Joining you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian,
Peakless Mountaineer,
and the Captain.
And don't forget, you can join us online anytime over at freetalklive.com. We have our own social media platform. You can go to social.freetalklive.com. It is a Mastodon-based system. It's not some big tech mega corporation that's behind it. We run the server, and you have a lot more freedom to express yourself there at social.freetalklive.com. That's social.freetalklive.com. We've been discussing the latest on the Donald Trump raid earlier this week, but that is not all there is to talk about. In fact, coming up here right after we get to this phone call, Peakless, you've got a story about OnlyFans, which is the kind of porn subscription website supposedly that individuals can use as their own personal paywall system. But apparently they're involved with labeling people as domestic terrorists or something. You're going to tell us about that coming up here in moments. But first, we go to Jack. He's in Washington State. Jack, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air.
Well, I kind of want to call in the fella from Delaware, and then I think Mel was from New York that called. Mm-hmm. And I have a question. I don't want this to be emotional at all because it's not emotional for me, but when libertarians run for office in like New Hampshire, when they do run, like what party do they typically affiliate themselves with?
The Libertarian Party. Well, I mean, there is a Libertarian Party here, and that's where the most Libertarian candidates are running.
When they run for high office, like when Aria ran for sheriff, she ran as a what?
She ran as a Republican. There are a lot of them that have run as Republicans. Some have run as Democrats.
Yeah, I got to say, the Republican Party of New Hampshire is fundamentally different from the Republican Party of anywhere else that I have ever seen.
Yeah, and the reason, of course, for that is there's a couple of reasons. One, it's a lot easier to get on a ballot if you are going to run as a Republican or a Democrat. Then all you got to do is pay, if you're running for state rep, for instance, $2. You pay $2.
Right, well, you're making my point. Couldn't Trump, and then this is what I'm talking about, Delaware, New York, no. Couldn't Trump just be a sheep in wolf's clothing that's using the system? MSNBC,
a wolf in sheep's clothing, maybe?
Fox News. No, hear me out. Don't get emotional, please. Everyone hates him. He's been kicked off of social media. The people that follow him, which are just humans at this point, very few little companies or RSMBN or whatever, actually have any, power in the media anymore. And so couldn't he just be doing the same thing the libertarians do when they run for office?
No, because we know what Trump does when he gets into office. He's part of the system. He makes the system bigger and more oppressive and more restrictive and more expensive.
Nothing that he said he was going to do on his way into the office. Nothing.
So, I mean, in the sense that he is using the Republican Party for his own personal agenda and to his own personal ends, yes, in that sense, he is doing the same thing that libertarians do. Like when we,
but he's not a libertarian.
Yeah, right. Now, when, especially in New Hampshire, when libertarians run as Republicans, it is not to be Republicans. I mean, the Republican Party has shown that they are incredibly happy with being warmongers. They're incredibly happy.
Well, they don't
with,
like it when the Democrats go to
big
war, though.
Tariffs, with restricting movement, with a bunch of blue laws, like, oh, that behavior is immoral, therefore you should be kidnapped if you perform that behavior. Now, libertarians are not in favor of any of that. If there's no victim, there's no crime. However, we are willing to use the Republican Party to get there, to get people free, to change the culture, especially in a place like New Hampshire, where we can over time accumulate a change in laws, which helps to change the culture to a freer place.
And if you multiply the difficulty and
the what? You broke up there. You can multiply the what?
The difficulty at that level. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we do now.
Yep.
He's potentially, and once again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not emotional about it, but just watching that everyone hates him and they hate everyone that likes him, even though he is in a lot of ways an a-hole and so on and so forth. It makes me question whether or not he is, again, a sheep in wolf's clothing.
All right. Well, thank you for the call tonight, Jack. Appreciate hearing from you. I mean, again, if he's still pretending after 4 years of being in office, like, wouldn't the whole point of pretending to be something in order to get into office be, pointless if you're not actually doing the thing you really intended to do when you got into office, which was drain the swamp, supposedly?
Like, if he was what all these people a lot of the people who love him believe him to be, like, he would have drained the swamp. He would have, I mean, for crying out loud, he would have at least put one charge against Hillary Clinton. I mean, just one for littering something.
Yeah. I really wanted to hear Jack out, but I think that
he made his point.
Well, I think that he did, but he was a little too emotional about it.
The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. But I do want to talk a little bit more about why libertarians run as Republicans, and in some cases Democrats, here in New Hampshire. Number one, there's the ease of ballot access. Like in most states, it's very difficult for libertarians or anybody in a third party to get on a ballot. There's always...
Right, I was going to mention that to Jack, because there's already infrastructure there. You don't have to jump through the additional hoops if you run as a Republican.
Correct. Right. So there's that. And then secondly, the fact is the Republican Party here is weak. They are elderly for the most part. They don't have very many people under the age of 50 in their party. Like, if somebody shows up who's in their 30s and 40s to a Republican meeting, they fawn all over them like, oh, God, our party's still alive.
And we can survive the winter.
Yeah, I mean, that's how weak that they are. And so the libertarians, I think, saw that as an opportunity to say, and your point is correct as well, Peakless, is that the Republicans in New Hampshire tend to lean more libertarian just as a general rule.
Yes. Well, and at the moment, Republicans are more libertarian than Democrats. Now,
in New Hampshire, yes.
Not even just in New Hampshire. I would say throughout the country at the moment. Now, 20 years ago, it was absolutely the opposite. Back when it was W. Bush and the USA Patriot Act, like, wow, were the Republicans ever the way more authoritarian
warmongers
party at the time. Yeah. So if we were doing this back then it would be the Democrat Party that we were trying to use to create a more libertarian society. Now, at the moment, it's the Republicans, especially in New Hampshire. But 20 years from now, it'll be back to the other way again, and the Republicans will be back to their, fascist,
the moment they get power again.
Selves.
It's not even 20 years. It's within the moment they get the power again, all of a sudden they're going back for war. They're going back in for the police state.
Well, I mean, Trump was a lot of power. And it was on the Republican side, and they
were pro-police state. I mean, they were the ones who, back the blue. But Black Lives Matter says cops are bad.
They were not more a police state than the Democrats, though.
The term that I keep hearing thrown around, particularly here in New Hampshire, when it comes to folks running on the Republican ticket, if you will, is rhino, Republican in name only. That's a term that I don't know who invented. I'm sure it's meant as a slur.
It's old, yeah. It's been around for a while.
I'm sure it's meant as a derogatory term, but it is fitting because that's exactly what's happening. A libertarian person will get on a ticket as a Republican because it's just flat easier to do so.
Sure. Yeah, you have to get thousands of signatures if you want to get a governor candidate on the ballot here for the Libertarians, which they appear to have accomplished, by the way. So they turned in, I believe, like 6,400 signatures, if I recall the number, somewhere in that range, 6,000 or and change.
I mean, it's just so crazy. Like, think of all of that work that an individual needs to put in to achieve
a lot of people.
To achieve just getting on a ballot, as opposed to the amount of work it takes to say, hey, you know what? I'm fully capable of leading myself, and I do not need a ruler.
Yeah, just to touch real quick on the rhino thing.
Yeah.
All of them are rhinos and dinos. So, I mean, like, a Democrat, by definition, would be someone who wanted distributed power.
I believe it's pronounced Dino, but that's just me.
But they would want someone who wanted distributed power, who wanted, like, votes to matter regardless of how the vote turned out.
I'm heavily influenced by the Flintstones.
Fair enough. They would want the vote to actually matter, and someone who was an actual Republican would want there to be rights that couldn't be taken away by the government, even by a Democratic
this belief
vote.
That a vote matters and that your vote is going to make a difference somehow. Horse hockey.
Right. So there aren't real Democrats or real Republicans.
It's all a bunch of wishing.
A lot of power seekers, though. The number here is 603-283-6160, and you can join us. Bring up whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open. If you want to join the show here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Eagles Mountaineer.
And C, Captain Kickass.
You can bring up anything you want. There's actually some interesting commentary for once in our chat room.
No. I don't believe you.
Somebody who is claiming that he's sympathetic to libertarianism. His name is Rocco Piazza. But he believes that he's moved on. He says he used to be heavily into ANCAP, which is short for anarcho-capitalism. It's sort of this flavor of libertarian beliefs. And
which usually it refers to someone who's free market anarchist.
Right. And he says, and conservatism. So I don't understand how you could be both of those things at once, but that's what he says.
Oh, no. So conservatism is more of a preference. So like a preference for a style of life in the same way that you have a preference for a flavor of ice cream.
So okay. Normally, I think a conservative is somebody who wants to shove their style of life down somebody's throat.
Yeah, and they don't really do a lot of conserving, in my opinion.
Well, so I mean, for example, we had a former female co-host who is very conservative, but she doesn't want to put you in a jail cell for not following her beliefs.
Who are we talking about here? Heather Mullins?
No, my brain has just decided to leave her. Melanie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Melanie, she's very,
I get where you're coming from.
Very conservative, but she doesn't want to lock you up. She just wants to pick a neighborhood where other conservative, non-aggressive people can be.
So one can be anarchist in belief, but also conservative?
Yes.
So what's the definition of conservative that you're using?
Conservative is, technically it's you want to conserve what is good about your society that exists rather than being focused on changing it. But basically the idea of like traditional family values, lifelong marriage without divorce, being another example is
not always religion, because she's not a religious person.
She is
you're
not
referring to.
Religion tends to be alongside it, just because again that's how things were done. That has been the basis of morality for a long time.
Can a Democrat be conservative?
Yes.
Can a Republican
it's
be
just
liberal?
More rare.
Can a Republican be liberal?
Yes.
Because I was under the impression that those two terms, like conservative and Republican, went together, and liberal and Democrat went together, and they never shall the two overlap.
Well, in the same way that you can be a libertarian Republican. So, like,
I can't.
Right.
Sorry, I don't have that in my personal makeup, in my character.
So, like, you can be running as a Republican, or you can be, in the normal sense of the word, you can be voting Republican and actually be liberal. But think, okay, well, I'll vote Republican because I think this party is doing way less damage and is actually making us is making the world safer to be liberal. In the same way, you could vote Democrat because you believe that they are actually holding on to our and preserving our way of life more effectively than the Republicans are.
I just really hate all of the language that surrounds politics. I really do.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Well, and it is very, very different to be a conservative and respect the non-aggression principle.
Mm-hmm.
It's
normally I don't consider those things to be together, but I guess you are making a good argument that they could be together.
So here's the thing. I mean, it's part of the psyop, really, is to get people to believe, oh, well, you have these preferences. The only way to express your preference here is to give people the power to violently enforce those preferences.
Yes, and conservatives and liberals alike seem to lovingly embrace that idea of using violence against their neighbors.
Yeah, it's one of the things that they trick us into. Now, you can, on the other hand, say, okay, well, I have these preferences, but instead of forcing you to do my preferences, I will show you how much better a life can be by living by those preferences.
I want to go to the phones here. We have Jet on the line in Idaho. Jet, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yo, hey, it's time to play Say No Gov.
Say what?
Anyway.
No Gov.
Just kidding.
There, I've said it.
Just kidding. Well, you know my elevator speech, right?
I'm not an elevator, so I've probably never heard it.
We have new listeners all the time, Jet. What is the elevator speech?
People with titles are just other humans who have no more right to do anything than you or I.
That's a fact.
Now, I say that anyone with a title in order to kind of make everyone be equals, whether they're, fancy titles or doctorates or anything. I'm not talking about you, Dr. Kickass.
That's Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass, Buckshot Esquire, if you will.
Are you suggesting that he's actually just a person?
No, I believe that he is all of that and more. So
he's a character.
For me, every time I want to talk about the this evil IRS mafia thing.
Yeah.
So, for me, every time someone brings up the how people should follow the law or pay their taxes, that kind of stuff, I ask them if they agree with every tax and every law, or for any tax, that matter. Because to me, taxation, of course, is slavery.
Sure,
it is. And most people believe that the people pretending to be their servants, to do the will of the people, to protect us, that they are our democratic representatives of the people's voice. Yet they demand that we obey them or be punished. So here is the question. Can you provide a survey or study that shows how the majority of people wish to be taxed in their wages?
I can't imagine that anybody has been asked questions like that.
Oh, there are some people who love it. I mean, I've talked to people who go, yeah, I'd love to pay my tax. Okay, well, then pay all you want to, but just leave me
Sure,
out.
I ran into some of those people. I used to do tax day protests out in front of the post office when I was an activist in Florida with the Libertarian Party down there. And every now and then there would be somebody that would come up and say, yeah, I support taxation. I want to pay more taxes every now and then. It's like one out of,
Who's stopping you?
One out of 200 people might say something like that.
Well, no, I want to make you pay more taxes.
I don't know if anybody that's listening can hear this or not, but if you want to give money to, I don't know, the IRS, for example, you could just write a check and send it to them. It's not really that difficult. You can do it if you want to.
It's a terrible plan, but you could.
So how are they doing the will of the people if it is, let's say, imposed upon us that we give them money?
Well, they're not. It's just a total load of garbage, and it's all propaganda.
And who's this guy Will?
Don't you know
is he
the
really
government
of the
is
people?
the people?
I couldn't understand y'all. You were talking at the same time.
I was asking, who's this guy Will, and how did he become of the people?
It's just where he's from.
But that was
People,
my big
Michigan.
thing. I have an issue with taxation. I've had for a long time. I haven't contributed to the federal mafia for decades.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a simple matter of it just didn't make any sense to me. I mean,
it does not.
I transitioned from the point of, let's say, doing the deduction thing, so I didn't have to pay tax.
Oh, you mean running around and collecting little slips of paper and accounting for every little penny and dime that you spent?
Hours upon hours, yeah.
Thank you, Jeff, for the call, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the good example that you set as well. Appreciate hearing from you.
Indeed. Thank you, sir.
Phones are open if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160 in this live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. Still got to get to this OnlyFans story on the way, coming up with relation to terrorism watch lists. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on Library for years. Library is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, Library launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer with a look back at the week's top stories. A U.S. federal judge released documents related to the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home following a request from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The 7-page filing shows that FBI agents seized around 20 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Some contained information listed as classified or top secret. The search warrant cites possible violations of the Espionage Act, which covers unlawful retention of defense-related information that could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. It also cites laws prohibiting the concealment or destruction of documents to obstruct an investigation and the unlawful removal of government materials. The former president's lawyers have argued that Trump declassified the documents before leaving office. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The bill, a major boost for U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, represents the largest climate investment in American history, with targets to reduce carbon emissions by up to 40% by the end of this decade. FSN's Benji Heyer has more.
The $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act, a flagship component of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, can now be signed into law by the president, having been approved by the Democrat-controlled House. In it, a number of policies aimed at lowering prescription drug costs and cutting the deficit by roughly $300 billion. One of the major objectives is to bring down carbon emissions by 40% below 2005 levels, though that falls well short of the 50% reduction promised by President Biden just last year. Republicans also warn the bill would limit investment and drive up inflation. Benji Heyer, Washington, D.C.
A man has been arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public appearance in New York. Iranian religious leaders have a long-standing reward offered for anyone who kills the author after accusing him of blasphemy. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
Salman Rushdie was being introduced on stage at the Chautauqua Institution in western New York State on Friday morning when a man rushed the stage. The author was stabbed in the neck and was initially treated at the scene before being taken to hospital by helicopter. The interviewer from the event was also slightly injured. New York State police say a male suspect was immediately taken into custody. Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran in the 1980s, with many Muslims considering it to be blasphemous. It led to him receiving death threats, with Iran offering a $3 million reward for anyone who kills the writer. Sarah Walton, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open here, and you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. By the way, I did check, and apparently we are on Real America's Voice, so welcome to any new listeners that haven't, punched out in anger and frustration at the fact that we're not your typical cookie-cutter conservative talk show, which I presume is what you normally would get.
Good ideas do not require force.
Indeed. That is certainly an overwhelming message here on Free Talk Live, which is an open phone show. So if you're hearing us for the first time and you want to reach our radio audience, because we are primarily on radio stations, we have about 190 or so radio stations that take this show at various different times throughout the week. Not all 190 are on right now. I don't know how many are on right now, some number of dozens. But over an entire week, we're heard on that many radio stations. So that's primarily what we do, but we also broadcast online in various different forms. We, of course, have our Odyssey channel over at video.freetalklive.com. That is, of all the different video platforms, we're on our quote-unquote official one. So that's the one where we expect to be longer than any of the others who will likely take us off the air, as YouTube has done on multiple occasions in the last couple of years.
Hasn't the show been a podcast since before the word podcast was invented?
Yeah, we had MP3s going back to the first episode in November of 2002. And so, yes, we are coming up on our 20th anniversary in just a couple of months.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll basically coincide with our trial. It's like, I think our 20th anniversary is probably going to be 2 days into, 1 or 2 days into the trial for the Crypto 6, which some of our co-hosts, including myself, facing multiple charges by the federal government after raiding our studio last year for victimless so-called financial crimes.
For stupidity.
So, yeah, there's always a lot going on here at Free Talk Live, including open phones every night. The number is 603-283-6160. Let's go to them, where we have first up David in California, in San Francisco. Go ahead, David.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I heard you talking about real conservatives and whatnot. Some of the listeners surely are not old enough to remember back in 1972 when, actually earlier than that, late 60s, when Richard Nixon developed the Southern Strategy. And he basically stole the Republican Party. He basically, as a Republican, he stole the bigots and put them in the Republican Party.
Where did he steal them from? The Democrats?
Yeah, they were the Dixiecrats. Okay. And so when John Kennedy was in, he came up with the Civil Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, and that so pissed off the Southern Dixiecrats that they hated Kennedy, and they didn't care if he was dead. And then when Lyndon Johnson doubled down on those and had the Fair Housing Act, and I'm trying to think of what else they did.
Bunch of actors.
Yeah, they are.
Well, they opened up the schools, integration of schools. Made sure that they got rid of the two-tiered drinking fountains, all of the double bathrooms, all of the bigotry, blacks in the back of the bus. All of that disappeared right at that time, and so all those bigots went over to the Republican Party. Now, you got to remember that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and so to this day, the Republican Party, earlier this year, the Lincoln Memorial.
And Lincoln was a thug. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. He did not support freedom of speech. He was against independence and would do anything he could. In fact, he even said that he would keep slavery if he could keep the Union together and keep slavery.
If I could keep the Union, if I could preserve the Union and free no slaves, then I would do that. He thoroughly believed Lincoln, that blacks could never serve on juries or vote. He was an absolute monster, and people venerate him. Fun fact, he also literally didn't free any slaves.
Mm-hmm. Sure he did.
He absolutely did not.
When you think about the Emancipation Proclamation,
right, which was specifically targeted. Read that document. It specifically targets the states that he is not under, that are not under his control. It was not to free slaves; it was to cause chaos. He did not free any of the slaves in the area that he actually had control over.
He kept saying the entire world somehow benefited from Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, and the truth is, the United States, I think, is the only country on the face of the planet where they had to go to war to do something with Haiti as well?
The United States and Haiti.
Yeah, but otherwise, slavery was eliminated through market mechanisms, through voluntary order in the rest of the world. They didn't need to go to war.
And not to mention the people who, felt like they shouldn't have to be slaves.
Yeah. Yeah, William Wilberforce is the person who emancipated the slaves throughout the world. and no one even knows who that is.
Who is he?
He was the founder of, he was the biggest name in the abolition movement, and his fundamental idea, and people don't even know that abolition was a Christian movement.
Wasn't it the Quakers who led the way on that?
They were huge on that. So the idea was that Christians believe that there is one Lord for all men. There is only one master for all men, and so if you were going to have a human master, that would be in violation of God's law. So as
Censors.
such...
What's that?
Liars, cowards, and censors.
Who's lying, sir?
Oh, my.
You are.
What's the lie?
Do you believe in lying? Do you believe in slavery?
No, we were just giving you the history of slavery.
You're pretending that the Republican Party believes in the principles of Lincoln.
What the hell are you talking about?
Who said anything like that?
But the Republican Party this day is a bait and switch party. Bait and switch. That's crime.
They're all liars, dude.
Yeah, both parties are full of horse hockey.
See, that's the thing. When David calls in, he always acts like we're saying things we weren't saying. I don't know if he's listening to another show and he's just got the wrong number on speed dial or whatever, but we weren't saying anything about what.
Well, when he's on hold, he should be able to be hearing what we're saying.
Yeah, but the thing is, he keeps talking. He keeps shouting, and that's why I have to put him on hold, because you cannot actually get this guy to listen to a word that you say. He's such... he's just a mouthpiece, basically, for statism.
Republicans
are
absolutely bait and switchers.
Yeah, well, so are the Democrats. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
the thing. You're just a partisan, David. That's all you are.
Okay, so the Libertarians, however, if you remember 1980, when the Koch was at one of the Kochs ran for vice president, and Pat Clark was the presidential candidate, he actually bought the Libertarian Party, and in the future, the only way you could become a candidate in the Libertarian Party was to pay him cash. Right?
I've never met the guy. Don't know anything about him.
Oh, okay. So you
I've
must
heard of
have
Ed
met
Clark.
some candidates. You got to pay
candidates in
to
the
be a candidate.
We have
You
candidates
gotta
in
pay
the
to be-
Libertarian...
Okay, he keeps on repeating himself. Sorry, what was that?
We have candidates in the Libertarian Party right here in New Hampshire that certainly did not have to pay anyone any sum of money for the privilege of running as a Libertarian.
Yeah, Darryl Perry was a co-host on this show while he ran for president with the Libertarian Party. He didn't win the nomination, but they certainly didn't charge him to run for the Libertarian Party ticket. I'm sorry, David, you're just making crap up.
No, I've talked to the Libertarians out here. They had to pay, and he owned the rights to the Libertarian name. They've done the same.
Sounds like a ridiculous conspiracy theory.
Sounds like more of an argument for the system to go away.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call tonight, David. I mean, just total
and even
fantasy.
if that has been true in the past, that certainly isn't the case
Right, he's
now.
talking about 1980. I mean, you're talking about more than 40 years ago at this point. Anyway, we continue here. The number is 603-283-6160.
I just want to say, when people like him call, and there's several...
There aren't very many people like him.
Well, there's several callers who have this same sort of vibe to them.
Okay.
Right? Jerome is one of them.
True, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know,
David's
where
more of a commie, though, I think, than
sure,
Jerome.
but their flavor is just... I think a certain way, and everything else that you say that doesn't fall into the way of my thinking is wrong.
Is a lie.
Yeah.
And
Not
makes
only
you a lie.
is it
Right, yeah.
incorrect, but you know that it's incorrect and you're saying it anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas you have been lied to, David. You have been lied to about what kind of person Abraham Lincoln was.
Yep.
And you have been lied to about what kind of organization the Republican Party is.
And there's a tremendous amount of propaganda about Lincoln out there. I mean, he's one of the, when you go to government school and you go into history class, he's one of 3 presidents that they always tell you about.
And they made a giant stone statue out of him, too.
Yeah, they lionize him, but he is one of the biggest monsters that humanity has ever produced.
Sure, but who writes the history? The victor. And he was the victor in the Civil War, so it shouldn't be a surprise that he gets lionized all over the place. There's more coming up here, and you can share your thoughts with us. 603-283-6160. It is Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open here. You can join us. You can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian,
Peakless Mountaineer,
and the Reverend Captain Kickass.
Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. If you're ready to start learning about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, you can go click Get Started at the top of the page at Bitcoin.com. We'll give you some introductory videos there. We can learn some of the basics which are important to get a grasp on before you decide to maybe put some money into this thing, because there are risks involved. Things are a little bit different. There's some new concepts involved, like decentralization. What's that all about? Why is this system so threatening to the status quo? Why are the governments of the world, not just the United States, many of them targeting cryptocurrency?
I know.
Oh, why, Captain?
Because you no longer have to rely on the state to be the third party to provide trust in your transactions.
That's one reason.
Yeah,
one
of the things I realized about the when they're shutting down all this stuff, because criminals are using these networks. The reason that they're upset about this is they're like, but that's our market. We have total market domination of criminal money. Everyone uses dollars in U.S. cash throughout the world, and you're cutting into our action.
The government hates competition.
Indeed. So go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started. If you're not brand new, you can get the latest news headlines anytime on their news site at news.bitcoin.com. We go to your calls and thoughts. Bill is on the line in Virginia. Bill, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead. Bill?
No, I'm just a Bill.
Yes. I just screened his call a moment ago. Bill going once.
Yes, I'm only a Bill.
Bill going I see Bill calling back in. Must have had an issue here. Let's bring him on the new line that he's just calling in on. Bill, are you with us?
Can you hear me okay?
We got you loud and clear. Go ahead.
There you are.
Oh, I accidentally cut myself off. Anyway, not too smart a caller. I wanted to mention two incredibly important dates. You can research it if you want, and you should. It might change your way of thinking about religion and the Christian religion, because August 21, 2017, that was the date that the solar eclipse was seen only in America from the West Coast to the East Coast. That was the only other time that happened was 1776, when our country was obviously, formed. So you have that incredible thing happen August 21, 2017. They say we're going to have signs from about Jesus coming back and that.
They've been saying that for a long time.
Okay, well, now here's another thing.
What does the eclipse have to do with anything, though? I mean, what did something happen on that day that was important to you?
No, see, you're not letting me talk now.
Go ahead.
Now I'm going to solidify your question. See, a lot of times people talk before they want to listen. Okay, the second date is about a month and 3 days later, September 21, 2017. Now, if you go to the Bible, Revelation chapter 12, it starts out, the woman, the child, and the dragon. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon on her feet, and her head with a garland of 12 stars. And then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. Now, if you go to the YouTubes, that is a celestial event that happened September 21, 2017, when all those things lined up the way they say here in the Bible. And the Jupiter comes out, is in her womb, the planet Jupiter goes into her womb and oscillates for about 9.5 months, about the time of a normal birth. And then when that comes out, when it comes out of the Virgin, which is, they're talking about the Virgin here, the woman, and that's the constellation Virgin. Then it comes out between her legs. The Jupiter is born there, like Jesus is born, and there's a dragon there.
Well, hold on.
Constellation there.
Jupiter is Jesus.
So, you got to look at the YouTube, sir.
No, I don't have to, sir.
It's happened once.
No, I don't.
This has happened once.
So far, what I'm hearing from you is
you're too stupid to read the Bible. Then,
well, then that's not going to persuade many people,
read the
right?
Bible, then God didn't write the Bible for you.
God didn't write the Bible.
No, he definitely. Yeah, that's right. Men wrote the Bible.
Apparently, your creator wants you to know certain things, and you don't care about knowing them. So that's because you're that day on.
You're the creator.
Whether Jupiter is Jesus.
Just believe what you want to believe yourself.
Wait a minute. I want to give this guy some credit, because when he first came on after you trying him on the one line and he called back, he did preface this whole call with, "I'm not too smart of a caller."
Apparently, he's also the creator. He's telling us what the creator wants us to know. You got a straight line to God there? He hung up the phone. Guess he's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very hard to understand.
How dare you question me?
Yeah, look, one of the reasons why we ask questions is because I want to understand. Like, if I ask a question, it's not because I'm not listening to you. It's because I'm trying to listen to you and get some sort of comprehension around what you're trying to say. And all I heard was something about a dragon and a celestial woman giving birth in the Jupiter, cosmos or something like that.
Now, so none of this is actually terribly unfamiliar to me. Like, I'm familiar with the exact part of Revelation that he's talking about. about. I'm familiar with various methods that people have used to graph that onto celestial activity on the planets and their relationships with the moon and the stars and the constellations and all that sort of thing.
I'm going to level with you guys. 100% revelatory moment here for the captain. I do believe in a creator. They are a speed metal band out of Germany that's been around for like 40 years.
Don't they spell it with a K?
And they spell it with a K, right? They're called Creator. They're really awesome if you like speed metal.
I want to get back to what you were saying there, Peakless. You're familiar with the book of Revelations. Didn't you grow up a Christian or something like that? Right,
yeah, my dad was a minister, actually.
Yeah, so you know a thing or two. So, I mean,
and we were a biblical research ministry, so like intense study of the Bible was it was the sort of thing that I guess is more common in Judaism than Christianity.
Okay, but so given what he was saying, did it make any sense to you whatsoever as somebody who knew at least something about what he was talking about?
Yeah, sure. So
what the hell was he saying?
I'm trying to remember the exact phrasing. So it's like clothed in the moon and the sun at her feet. So for example, what will happen the Virgin is usually a reference to Virgo, because that's the thing. Like, there are actually real major connections between these ancient powerful stories, the only one of which almost anyone in the modern world knows is the Bible, and the story that is depicted by the constellations in the sky.
Sure.
There is a story that is depicted by the shapes that we have assigned to these stars. And that story is the same story that you find in our most ancient and powerful traditions.
And also in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh?
Specifically the reboot.
Oh?
They use all of the symbols of the Zodiac. And they use it to tell the stories of the 13 tribes, and each tribe has one of the symbols. Yeah.
Huh.
It's all throughout the whole series. Anyway, go on.
Interesting.
So was he making sense to you then?
Somewhat. So clothed in the sun, they will. So at any point where you can tell that the sun is currently where the constellation Virgo is behind it, even though you can't see those stars, you know that's where they are. For example, with a handy dandy app on my phone, I can see exactly which stars are behind the sun. And with the moon at its feet, or at her feet, usually when the moon is also in Virgo or like near the legs of Virgo. So there are various times that they will assign to that part of Revelations. The one that I grew up with, actually, and I wish I could remember all the details of it, but like their explanation of this was that this was a description of precisely when Jesus Christ was born. And that the time and date that was described in the book of Revelations happened only once, and that time was in our modern calendar September 11th, 3 BC.
So does this guy believe that this is all evidence that Jesus is coming back? Was that kind of what he was getting to, do you think?
It seems to be the case.
Okay. See, that's the thing. Like, if you ask somebody a question and then they get angry and call you stupid, they're not going to get anywhere with whatever it is they're trying to push. If you call your listener stupid and then you keep trying to tell them things, it's like you've already lost. Whatever it is you're trying to pitch, whether it be your religion or your political beliefs, So that's where he completely fell off the radar.
And it's one of those things where, like, you will find what you're looking for, whether it's there or not. Like, he's looking for a sign in the heavens that the Savior is coming, that he doesn't have to do any of his own work to change the world and make it any better, that these are the end times, and that's why everything is so screwed up. It's not like the fact that we keep giving psychopaths infinite power. It's just that it's the end times, and that's how things should be.
I think if your supposed creator wrote a book that was supposed to help you through life, he would have made it less cryptic.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't need studying to interpret, for example.
If he had, would we have access to that book? Honestly.
The number 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Of course, there are people who believe that God never stopped talking. You just have to know where to listen and how.
Like some of our callers.
Hour number 3 is on the way. You can bring up whatever you want. This is Free Talk Live, the live Saturday show.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer with a look back at the week's top stories. A U.S. federal judge released documents related to the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home following a request from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The 7-page filing shows that FBI agents seized around 20 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Some contained information listed as classified or top secret. The search warrant cites possible violations of the Espionage Act, which covers unlawful retention of defense-related information that could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. It also cites laws prohibiting the concealment or destruction of documents to obstruct an investigation and the unlawful removal of government materials. The former president's lawyers have argued that Trump declassified the documents before leaving office. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The bill, a major boost for U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, represents the largest climate investment in American history, with targets to reduce carbon emissions by up to 40% by the end of this decade. FSN's Benji Heyer has more.
The $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act, a flagship component of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, can now be signed into law by the president, having been approved by the Democrat-controlled House. In it, a number of policies aimed at lowering prescription drug costs and cutting the deficit by roughly $300 billion. One of the major objectives is to bring down carbon emissions by 40% below 2005 levels, though that falls well short of the 50% reduction promised by President Biden just last year. Republicans also warn the bill would limit investment and drive up inflation. Benji Heyer, Washington, D.C.
A man has been arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public appearance in New York. Iranian religious leaders have a long-standing reward offered for anyone who kills the author after accusing him of blasphemy. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
Salman Rushdie was being introduced on stage at the Chautauqua Institution in western New York State on Friday morning when a man rushed the stage. The author was stabbed in the neck and was initially treated at the scene before being taken to hospital by helicopter. The interviewer from the event was also slightly injured. New York State police say a male suspect was immediately taken into custody. Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran in the 1980s, with many Muslims considering it to be blasphemous. It led to him receiving death threats, with Iran offering a $3 million reward for anyone who kills the writer. Sarah Walton, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. If you thought polio was largely a thing of the past, events in the US and the UK over the last couple of weeks will have made you think again. Authorities in New York last month urged parents to get their children's polio boosters up to date after a handful of cases were reported across the state. Now, parents of children aged up to 9 years old in London are being told to do the same. Dr. Kathleen O'Reilly is with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
Polio has still got a bit of a long way to go, unfortunately. So there are still cases in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and then we also have this vaccine-derived poliomyelitis in a number of countries across Africa and Asia. And now, of course, in London, we have evidence of circulation from sewage samples. Kids love interacting with each other and perhaps don't wash their hands as much as we might like them to. But, you know, there is the possibility of transmission of this virus, especially in people and children included who haven't been vaccinated. So now it's a real need to vaccinate to protect the community.
Polio vaccination rates in developed countries have plunged amid a widespread belief that the disease that was once the scourge of Western cities has been largely eradicated. And indeed it has, but doctors fear those gains are now at risk. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. A U.S. court releases documents connected to the search of former U.S. President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home showing possible violations of the Espionage Act. The U.S. House of Representatives passes a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And a man was arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public speaking appearance in the state of New York.
And if you thought things couldn't get more infantile and aesthetically insulting than Fergie, Kesha, or Katy Perry, then you obviously haven't met 22-year-old Karonica, the latest and most horrid, talent-bereft pop monstrosity the music industry has ever sadistically forced down the American public's collective throat. She's here with us in the studio right now.
What?
Now tell us, Karonica, how did you first decide that you wanted to be the cipher through which the cynicism of a morally bankrupt industry is channeled?
Yo, I just do what I do. Know what I'm saying? It's like people just love my ish.
Right. You are in the middle of your sold-out Damn Girl tour.
Damn girl, that's right.
Which is a heinous slap in the face to the English language, and will also travel to 47 cities, sapping the intellects of every young person along the way.
I said, damn girl, that's right.
There's no light in your eyes, Karonica.
I got nothing to say to the haters.
I hate you.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and the phones are open. You can join us here at 603-283-6160. We are kicking off the third hour of the live Saturday edition. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Nicholas Mountaineer.
And this guy.
You are?
I am the captain.
Captain Kickass is with us here as well. The phones are open as always. You can bring up anything. I should mention we have a SIP line. Don't talk about it very much, but I usually bring it up once the phones are completely packed, and right now they are almost completely packed. So if you want to learn how to call us via the internet and sound a lot better than you would normally sound on a telephone, you can just go to sip.freetalklive.com. That takes you to step-by-step instructions that hopefully will work for you. Some people have trouble with them. It is a bit of a technical process, so give it a shot, see how it works out for you. If it doesn't work, let us know on that thread on the forum, and we'll try to make sure we correct it for you.
And despite its name, it's not meant for you to be like drinking alcohol and then trying to figure out how to call in on it.
It wouldn't help.
It's probably not going to happen for you.
But once you get it set up, you could probably drink a little bit. And
you could sip on the SIP line. It's true.
All right, so 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your calls and thoughts. We got Jim listening on the radio in Richmond, Virginia to WJFN. Go ahead, Jim.
Yes, sir. I was listening to your program tonight. The topic you were talking about Abraham Lincoln and whether or not it was the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves. What would you say that was the thing that would be enacted to free the slaves if it wasn't the Emancipation Proclamation?
Well,
what would you say that freed the slaves?
Well,
I mean, I'm aware that Lincoln, some of his paperwork that I read, where he wanted to keep the Union together. He didn't care whether they kept slavery or whatever. As long as he keep the Union. And I was wondering what your take on that was.
Well, that kind of slavery was ended by an amendment to the Constitution that said that that extended
the 14th Amendment.
That extended the rights of citizenship to everybody. Now,
what some would say that actually made everyone into slaves.
Yeah,
at that point.
I would say that, actually.
To be fair, that didn't so much end slavery as transform it. So, like, that kind of slavery, chattel slavery, was ended by the 14th Amendment. However, at the same time, they extended a kind of slavery to everyone.
So did that answer your question, Jim?
Yeah, because I listen to your show, and I know people sometimes are confrontation, but I feel like a lot of times we have to stop and listen, because I think two opinions or two takes on something that's happened in history, all that I can learn from myself by reading, but I can also learn from other people. And I enjoy your show, sir, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate hearing from you. Yeah, it's absolutely one of the reasons why we do this show as an open phones program, is because I want to hear all kinds of opinions out there. I do not want to hear from just the choir. To me, that's a boring show. To only have libertarians talking to other libertarians is not the kind of show that I want to do. That's why we're on regular radio stations. We've got, like I said, about 190 radio stations, and most of them are conservative talk stations. We do still have a couple that are, maybe one or two that are progressive talk out there, but because they don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, there are very few progressive talk stations.
One of the reasons I'm happy to do this show is because when I was sort of finding my way out of the fog of statism, this show, amongst a whole bunch of others and some folks on YouTube before Google got a hold of it and ruined it, were very instrumental in helping me sort of clear that fog. And I want to do this show all of the time because I know there's other people out there that, like me, are still contained within the fog of statism. In other words, they are brainwashed. They are conditioned, if you will, by, among other things, public schooling, the television, subscription to a certain party or another party of their political leaning, et cetera, and so on. And I think it's important to reach those people because it might be more like time to triage, but anybody who's sort of on the fence about whether or not they really believe that freedom is the answer, they could stand to hear those voices, and I think we provide that here.
Let's go to Robert. He's on the line in Eureka, California, which is actually where one of our few remaining progressive talk stations is. KGOE, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, hi. Great show this evening, you guys.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I heard the guys talking from the Bible, and the question is, how many people can actually forecast the future? And I don't think the Bible can do that either. But what God has given us is the ability to build something like the James Webb Space Telescope. And to think about what they have done with this is there's 400 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy alone. And in a grain of sand at arm's length with the James Webb Space Telescope, you can see thousands of galaxies.
What?
Oh,
with a grain of sand at arm's length? I don't follow you.
At arm's length, if you were to hold a grain of sand, you could see 1,000 galaxies.
I think he's saying the telescope would reveal that out of what is, to us, the size of a grain of sand in the sky.
So like that amount of your view.
Mm-hmm.
So like that area, they can see a lot of stars in that.
Okay, go on, Robert.
Yeah, they've already done this. This telescope is 10 years in the making, and if God didn't give us the gift today, we would never have anything like that.
The gift of what? I'm sorry.
I'm saying we would never have anything like that if God didn't give us the gift to continue on and not be told by the Bible the future from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, for those that do believe in the Bible, I wish them well. I think there are some good messages in there. I wish more of its supposed adherents would actually try to be more like Jesus Christ, because that's supposed to be what a Christian is, somebody who emulates Christ, and most of them fail pretty miserably at that. So, aside from that, I tend to be of the belief that God or the universe or whatever we want to call this force, whatever it is, has continued to put messages out there for people over the decades, over the generations, and it would be stupid to believe that God just stopped trying to communicate, 2,000 years ago, in my opinion.
I agree completely. Yeah. The continued speech of that which allows us to exist is, to my opinion, more important than the recorded and refined parts of those speech.
And if he wants to call, it's 603-283-6160. The phones are open 7 nights a week.
You could say that every one of our callers is
a little piece of that. Thank you, Robert, for the call. I do appreciate your thoughts, man.
As far as telling the future with a book, okay, well, I can tell you the future right now. The sun will rise tomorrow.
Good
now,
odds.
why do I know that?
Yeah.
Because there's a repeated pattern.
Yes.
Now, if the Bible, and especially something like the book of Revelations, is in symbolic language describing something that happens over and over and over again, then it very well can be telling the future. It'll give you the broad strokes of, okay, here's this part of the cycle. In this part of the cycle, there will be wars and rumors of wars. There will be plagues. There will be famines. Because, there's this continuous cycle, and at a certain point in that cycle, and I mean, it is cycles within cycles, mind you. There are longer cycles and shorter cycles. And at certain points in those cycles, there are very destructive periods of time. Whereas at other points in the cycle, they are very peaceful. Now, if you can depict certain things that tend to happen in different ways over and over in different iterations of this cycle, then you can, in a book, tell the future.
I think it's relatively easy to tell the future in some respects. That is, open a history book, and generally speaking, whatever you're reading about, it's going to happen again at some point.
Because people never learn.
People do not learn from the past for whatever reason. We learn from the past. The only thing we learn from the past is that people seldom learn from the past. The other thing is I can predict the future. I can tell you the score of the next Super Bowl coming up in February before the game even starts.
0-0.
That's right.
All right. 603-283-6160. You can bring up anything that you want to discuss here on radio and the internet. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live, and it is the live Saturday episode of the show. You can join us.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Should you be a one-car family? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. My 15-year-old Ford Escape was literally held together by duct tape and Gorilla Glue, but the dealer who sold me my new car gave me $1,500 for it. When supply chain issues slammed the brakes on new cars and car parts, dealers' new and used inventory dried up, and lots of us who were sent home during the pandemic shutdown continue working there, and lunching at home is a whole lot cheaper than ordering takeout at the office. Given your new normal, and with dealers begging to buy used cars, should you sell one if it's mostly just sitting there? How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and the phones are open if you want to join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. If you go to the grocery store or do any shopping, you know inflation is real. You know it's happening. You know
it is real.
It's getting worse over time. It's at a 40-year, 42-year record highs right around now. The dollar is, of course, not going to get stronger over time. And so savvy investors...
Well, not compared to goods and services anyway.
Yeah. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver, which you can too with BullionMax.com. They're a direct consumer precious metals retailer, and they can help you get into gold and silver. It's security for your family in times of crisis, and even in good times. It's good to have gold and silver. You can buy it direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals ship fully insured directly to your home. It's fast and it's easy, and we have a special offer to get you started. You can get BullionMax.com Silver Starter Kit at employee pricing by going to BullionMax.com/FTL, like Free Talk Live. BullionMax.com/FTL. It is only available one per household. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products, including a 2022 Silver American Eagle, a Buffalo Round, and a Buffalo Silver Bar. You can get all the details. BullionMax.com/FTL. Let's go to Keith, listening to apparently a new affiliate there in the Virginia Beach area in Virginia. Keith, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thanks, Ian. And yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome to WTJZ
Southeastern Virginia
on the AM and FM side.
Media Network.
What's on your mind?
Sorry?
What's on your mind tonight? Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to. I'm sorry about what happened to you all, you and the others, with the raid and the government problems. And you weren't on the air at that time, and I missed it happening. But I saw the article in The Verge. Was that a good, accurate account of what had happened?
I considered it to be a pretty good article. You're referring to an article that came out, I think, about a year ago now, maybe a little less than a year ago at this point, talking about the raid and on here on the studio and some of our co-hosts and myself, which happened back in March of 2021. People can go to thecrypto6.com to learn more, and there's video there, including surveillance video of the raid actually happening. If you want to know what that was like, it was pretty awful. So it gives you a little taste of that.
Well, I want to tell you, the first time I actually talked to John Fredericks, I had just heard Sheriff Richard Mack on our friend Tom Wood's podcast. And the show was about the victims of big government tyranny and bureaucratic abuse, and innocent people that the government had just railroaded. And, this thing about the raid with Donald Trump, I'd say kind of a good thing about it, although it's too bad what happened to his home and family. But at least now it could be an opportunity so that people can know that this has been happening, not only to his people, like, Roger Stone and some of the others that they did that to, but so many other Americans that nobody's ever heard of.
Oh, yeah. Thousands of times a year, tens of thousands of raids. The police conduct, I think it was last I heard was Radley Balco wrote a book about it, I don't know, a decade ago, where the number was 40,000 per year.
That's 40,000 new laws per year.
Well, no, I'm talking about raids. I'm talking about 40,000 raids.
I mean, I know that number goes up every year.
Yeah, and of course the supermajority of those, they're not going after murderers or rapists or anything like that. They're going after people for drug possession and other nonviolent victimless crimes.
Well, this is why we need 87,000 new IRS agents. We need more raiding.
Oh, they'll be doing that for sure.
Well, it was also, I think one of the things mentioned in the notes, I believe, of Tom Wood's podcast was the book by Harvey Silverglate, 3 Felonies a Day.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never read it, but he's an attorney who wrote that book, as I understand it, and just makes the argument.
He said that's what the average. Yeah, he said that's what the average American commits.
Right, without realizing
every day,
it,
because there's so many stupid laws that nobody even knows about.
Yep.
And it's all selective arrest and prosecution.
Of course.
Whoever they might decide to go after because you happen to be, for whatever reason. You know the story of the baby Cyrus in Idaho, the medical kidnapping with the CPS? My point in all of this is...
No, but we've heard many CPS, DCYF, you fill in the blanks because they're different in every state. These children and families groups kidnapping people all over the place. One of our co-hosts, Jay Noon, was targeted earlier this year and last year by the Goon Squad here in New Hampshire, and he had to... his family had to leave their home and hide out, basically, while he dealt with these people and basically told them to go screw off.
Well, they were prepared... Fortunately, because the grandfather, Diego Rodriguez, of the baby Cyrus in Idaho, what had happened, and you can see the account at freedomman.org/Cyrus, that's the grandbaby, and see what had happened was they had already, because of the COVID lockdowns, the people in Idaho for liberty, defense, and whatever, helping out their neighbors and things like that. Ammon Bundy had started an organization called peoplesright.org. And what it is that it's neighbors helping each other, and for whatever, any natural emergency or...
Yeah, we heard about it at the time.
From the government.
Yep.
Well, and that is the solution. I mean, it is tremendously important to set up a community.
So what happened? Can you keep the story as quick as possible with this child?
Yeah, that's what it was about. Because their neighbors were already organized in the peoplesrights.org, in which they sent out an email, a text message alert, and also via Signal, I think, app, that basically everybody showed up immediately when the police came and, kidnapped that baby for CPS, and it was totally
That's awesome.
messed up. And she actually got it on FaceTime live video. so you can see just what these stupid thugs did to that family.
I think that is so important. I mean, two of the things you just brought up. One, having a community, and you talked about this earlier, Peakless, that you can turn to in the event that these goons come after you. And secondly, whether you have a community or not, getting a video camera out, getting your phone, put it in, understanding how to do this. You can practice with your devices before it comes time for it, right? Because you don't want to be fumbling around like, oh, God, how do I hit record?
In fact, you should practice.
Yeah, you absolutely should. And get that recorded, get it online as quickly as possible. And if you have a community of people, have a way of getting out the word out to them. Now, of course, Cell 411 is under development. I don't know what its current status is, but that's an app that allows for emergency notices of people. Keith, thanks for the call tonight. Thanks for
the very last thing, if I can say this real quick.
Fast.
Sheriff Richard Mack and Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association are friends with Ammon Bundy and Diego Rodriguez and the People's Rights Group, and that combination is really what can save us. Catherine Austin Fitts said the most important person, elected official, is your county sheriff.
You know, I hear a thing or two about these guys, but they seem more to be mythology to me. I just don't. It's hard for me to believe that a sheriff is going to help save us from the very people who he works for oppressing
they
us.
Hypothetically could, but I've never seen one actually act like they weren't police.
There's actually a decent one down in Arizona who called into the show once, and he's been a long-time listener of the show, so I think they could exist, but they don't do as much as they should, in my opinion. Thank you, Keith. There's more coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. As inflation surpasses another 40-year high, the U.S. dollar continues to weaken. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver, and you can also own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. BullionMax.com is a direct-to-consumer precious metals retailer who can help you diversify into gold and silver. It's security for your family in times of crisis. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals ship fully insured directly to your home. It's fast and easy. Free Talk Live has a special offer to get you started. Get BullionMax.com Silver Starter Kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. This kit includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products, including a 2022 Silver American Eagle, a Buffalo Round, and a Buffalo Silver Bar. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer with a look back at the week's top stories. A U.S. federal judge released documents related to the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home following a request from Attorney General Merrick Garland. The 7-page filing shows that FBI agents seized around 20 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Some contained information listed as classified or top secret. The search warrant cites possible violations of the Espionage Act, which covers unlawful retention of defense-related information that could harm the U.S. or aid a foreign adversary. It also cites laws prohibiting the concealment or destruction of documents to obstruct an investigation and the unlawful removal of government materials. The former president's lawyers have argued that Trump declassified the documents before leaving office. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a sweeping healthcare, tax, and climate package worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The bill, a major boost for U.S. President Joe Biden's domestic agenda, represents the largest climate investment in American history, with targets to reduce carbon emissions by up to 40% by the end of this decade. FSN's Benji Heyer has more.
The $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act, a flagship component of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, can now be signed into law by the president, having been approved by the Democrat-controlled House. In it, a number of policies aimed at lowering prescription drug costs and cutting the deficit by roughly $300 billion. One of the major objectives is to bring down carbon emissions by 40% below 2005 levels, though that falls well short of the 50% reduction promised by President Biden just last year. Republicans also warn the bill would limit investment and drive up inflation. Benji Heyer, Washington, D.C.
A man has been arrested after the author Salman Rushdie was stabbed at a public appearance in New York. Iranian religious leaders have a long-standing reward offered for anyone who kills the author after accusing him of blasphemy. FSN's Sarah Walton reports.
Salman Rushdie was being introduced on stage at the Chautauqua Institution in western New York State on Friday morning when a man rushed the stage. The author was stabbed in the neck and was initially treated at the scene before being taken to hospital by helicopter. The interviewer from the event was also slightly injured. New York State police say a male suspect was immediately taken into custody. Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, was banned in Iran in the 1980s, with many Muslims considering it to be blasphemous. It led to him receiving death threats, with Iran offering a $3 million reward for anyone who kills the writer. Sarah Walton, New York.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and the phones are open here if you want to join us. Live Saturday show, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And joining you tonight, you've got Ian,
Beakless Mountaineer,
and the Reverend Captain Kickass.
You can join us online anytime you want. Just head over to freetalklive.com. We mentioned earlier the Odyssey channel. You can go follow us there. It's our video streaming platform. We are on a few other streaming platforms out there, but they don't have the principles that Odyssey does. So check them out at video.freetalklive.com. You can watch us live there. You can watch us later on. Just give us a follow there. And I think you'll like Odyssey as you explore around. You'll find that it's kind of like the way YouTube used to be, where pretty much anybody can put anything they want up there, with a few exceptions.
And they're getting better every day, too. They keep adding stuff and updating stuff.
They're doing great work over there. And, of course, it's all based on the library protocol, which is what makes it possible. It's lbry.com. That is ultimately what is behind Odyssey. And that is the truly uncensorable protocol. Now, Odyssey, they can still say whether or not they want it. Like, they don't want porn, for instance, on Odyssey. And hopefully we'll get a chance to get to this OnlyFans story coming up here in a moment. But let's go back to the phones. First, we've got Olivia on the line in Arizona. Go ahead, Olivia.
Hey, so I called about something else. Now I want to address all the other callers.
Of course.
So
pick one.
Well, I had called earlier in the show, but what happened was I got a call from my prison pen pal, and probably people already know this, but because everyone knows and loves someone who's been locked up at this point, because it's just an epidemic anymore. But they can only call out. You can't call them, so you have to drop everything and take that call. And fun fact, I don't know if anyone's watched The Dukes of Hazzard, but you know Boss Hogg, the sheriff. That's a real thing in Texas prisons. They literally have to call the correctional officers boss. So that's just some fun trivia there. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. So you were talking about slavery earlier, and it was just transferred over to the penal system. So now the government gets to own slaves.
Yeah, that was the one exception that they carved out in the 14th Amendment. We're not allowed to do slavery
unless you're convicted, right? Yeah.
And as far as Lincoln being this great guy who was just a humanitarian who loved people, please look up his policies on Native Americans and how he and Ulysses S. Grant's presidency as well just decimated the Native tribes, which actually kind of ties into what I was calling about, which was in Arizona, in the Yuma area, the Governor Ducey, is now, which that offers some fun nameplay there.
Sorry, my 12-year-old brain kicked in.
Yeah. But he's building the border wall himself using cargo containers and razor wire. I kid you not, but I want people to remember that those walls, they love low-cost free labor. It's not to keep immigrants out. It's probably to keep you in. People like to go over there for like to go over there for cheap medical care and all that. And the house prices.
Yeah, remember they're about to unleash the forces of taxation upon us.
That's right. House prices are the highest they've been in 33 years. Biden's wanting to pass this new inflation reduction bill that spends hundreds of billions of dollars.
It's an act.
Is that going to help the situation? And as far as the kids getting taken by CPS, look up DeShaney versus Winnebago County Department of Social Services. The Supreme Court ruled that those people have absolutely no duty to protect your children. It's a political weapon. They did this to Barry Cooper, the never get busted former cop who now helps people evade the police and not get caught with drugs. he was going to run for Texas Attorney General, and they threatened to take his kid away. CPS threatened to take his kid away until he dropped out. Just like this Trump thing, it's all about harassment, and making sure that their guy gets in and no one else does. So.
You nailed it, Olivia. Thank you for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you.
Spot on.
Yeah, it's all about the mythology. So they give us this mythology about, there is one set of laws that apply to everybody, and they're just enforcing all of the laws all of the time, and especially the most important laws, but they definitely enforce them on absolutely everybody, nice and even, right? No, none of that ever happens at all. Now, what they will do, they'll enforce whatever's convenient, which happens to be, guess what the most enforced laws are? Speed limits and parking.
Revenue.
Yeah.
Revenue
generation. Yeah. Exactly. Now, anything else that also happens to be really convenient for them, taxation or regulations or, revenue, or anything that we can use to just scare the absolute crap out of everyone, that will enforce. So, for example, raiding you. Did they need to bash down a door that was literally unlocked? No.
Of course not.
No.
Well, the door was locked, but it wouldn't have been hard for them to get in if they'd knocked.
Yeah. Did they need to break down doors and windows? No, that wasn't necessary. But
shock and awe.
Exactly. They need to hit it and hit it hard. Why?
Because they can.
It's scarier that way.
It's fun for them too.
We don't want people just letting you buy crypto without their permission.
Yeah, they want to scare people. And, they got all the toys, so they get disappointed if they're not allowed to use them. I mean, if you had a bunch of flashbangs and smoke grenades and guns sitting around and you never got to pick them up and use them, then that's no fun, right?
Yeah, and that makes the raids more of a frequent occurrence, too, because anytime you outfit these thugs with more toys, they are just going to want to use them more and look for excuses to do so.
Let's go to David. He's in New Mexico. Go ahead, David.
An hour and 24 minutes on hold.
Do you have something to say?
Jeez. Yeah, I do.
All right, let's get to it.
Do. So you had...
Is it M. Monica Zamora?
M. Monica Zamora is one of them. Very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your call.
Very much. The other one is as cited here in generationjustice.org/blog post, John Romero, Judge John. And generationjustice.org is highly reputable because they are, in addition to print, they are an audio and a community outreach. They're an audio program like yours, and they are broadcast on the University of New Mexico radio station, KUNM. So
aren't you banned from that station?
Yeah, that's the one that doesn't want me saying what I'm about to say on your station. Okay. They don't want it said on their station because it happens to be about people that they are partnered with, like Judge John J. Romero Jr.
Oh, so Generation Justice is a show that actually pumps up the justice system?
I don't think that justice really has anything to do with anything that they do.
That's a fact.
Just, in my assessment, it's just propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
But to cite one small section, which is 52 words, it says, simultaneously he earned, and you said government. The segue was, government does not like competition.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, like government air traffic controllers like PATCO, when they went out on strike and the scabs came in and did their jobs, the PATCO air traffic controllers got violent with the scabs coming in to earn money because apparently they are government and they don't like competition.
Mm-mm.
So 52 words citation here. Simultaneously, he, which is referring to Judge John J. Romero Jr. in this article, he earned his Federal Aviation Administration Journeyman Controller certification. 6 years later, in 1981, he went on strike alongside 12,000 air traffic controllers. Their union was seeking better pay and working conditions. In response, President Ronald Reagan deemed the strike illegal and after 48 hours terminated their jobs. Romero was fired, which brings up the question. If you go to work for, and we're viewing this through the lens of people who believe in the system, like Judge John J. Romero, not through the lens of people like ourselves that don't believe in the system. But Judge John J. Romero believed in the system, and he signed a contract that to go to work as an air traffic controller saying he would not strike. And then he went on strike. And then his boss, Reagan, said, I'll give you 48 hours to get back to work because your strike is illegal, and I'm going to fire you in 48 hours if you don't go back to work. Judge John J. Romero continued to be obstinate and defiant of his boss.
So I think the point he's making is the judge didn't care about what was written down on paper.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So we care about the actual agreements that you make with people, and they pretend to care about what the law is. In either case, you would be doing what you agreed to.
Thanks for the call, David. There's more coming up here. The number is 603-283-6160 if you want to join us in the remaining moments of Free Talk Live, which are coming up. This is Free Talk Live. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
we're just talking off the air there about the Matrix chat server, which we run, and you can join. Just go to chat.freetalklive.com for step-by-step instructions on how to get in there.
Morpheus?
It does take you a few minutes to get through the setup, but once you get in, it works pretty well. And it's free, and you can interact with Free Talk Live listeners, some of the hosts of the show, and people that hate us over at chat.freetalklive.com. But they sure do love our chat server. So let's go and continue. Actually, you know what? I want to get this discussion in here about the OnlyFans thing. You brought this in tonight, Peakless, and we teased it earlier, and then we got deluged with phone calls. So what is the story here?
Well, so long story short, so this is a trial that is currently going on, and the accusation is that these, including a senior level executive who is yet to be named, that a bunch of people from Meta, from OnlyFans, reported a bunch of their own. The people that were using their service, porn stars and that sort of thing.
So executives from OnlyFans reported on their own users?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So there's a big competition for social media, right?
Sure.
And OnlyFans, well, obviously you're using them at least some of the time, but a lot of those girls like to use Instagram and also like to use some other things.
They promote themselves on the mainstream social media, and they put, hey, join my OnlyFans for uncensored
Or they can
pics.
get on Facebook Marketplace for their pictures or whatever. Okay. So in order to hold on to...
Can you sell porn on Facebook Marketplace?
I don't know.
I'd be surprised if they let you
I don't
do
know,
that.
but now it is worth pointing out that not all of them are porn stars.
This is true, yeah.
Not all of them are even ones that do nudes, but you can have, bikinis and that sort of thing, and that you
the
can
idea
still
of the
sell
OnlyFans
on,
is it's a paywall for whatever content, right?
Yep, whatever kind of content that you want to make people pay for, if obviously they're your fans. So
and OnlyFans takes a cut.
Yep,
of course.
Exactly. So they reported a bunch of their allegedly reported a bunch of their users to Facebook's terrorism watch list.
Wait, I'm sorry. So OnlyFans is the pimp?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I had it straight.
Why though would they do that?
Because this way they don't get any traffic on those other social media. So
why wouldn't they?
So if Facebook has you marked as a potential terrorist because you've been reported, then they will change how easy it is to get to your content.
But doesn't that cut their...
If Instagram thinks that you're a terrorist, they don't want people looking at your pictures. They want them looking at other non-terroristy pictures.
But those people are using those platforms to promote their OnlyFans. Why would OnlyFans want to stop them from promoting on larger platforms? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, they want them all to themselves.
But how are people going to find them if they can't post to the other platforms?
Huh. Good question.
Who brought the suit? Who brought the lawsuit? The users?
A bunch of the performers, yeah.
Wow. How do you even find out that you've been labeled a terrorist as on one of these other platforms? I imagine it doesn't put a badge next to your profile. So what would have clued them in?
Well, didn't the FBI just release a bunch of symbols and that kind of thing that might make you a terrorist? Like
libertarians and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
The Gadsden flag, the yellow and black for the ANCAP colors. If you're a fan of Marvin Heemeyer, stuff like that.
Yeah, they did that.
So maybe that's how.
I'm not sure how that would prove that you're labeled a terrorist on the Facebook platform. How did they get? Does it say anything about how they became aware of this?
See, I'm checking that out.
Because usually that seems like one of those categories where it would be silently, applied to your account, and then all of a sudden no one sees your stuff anymore, and you think everything's normal, and you're just wondering why you have no interaction or what do they call it, engagement.
Well, and the thing to be aware about all of this is that there is a silent cooperation between Google and Meta. So if you end up on Google's space, if you end up on Meta's terrorist watch list, then believe you me, you will also be on Google's watch list.
Right.
So if you have a bunch of videos, and you can get tips and that sort of thing. Okay, well, your videos will only be viewed on my platform. They will no longer be on YouTube.
So my guess is somebody on the inside tipped somebody off because it doesn't make sense that they'd be able to figure that out. I just cannot connect how a user would be able to know that they were on some sort of secret list.
Yeah, hopefully they have something that resembles evidence of this.
Mm-hmm. So this trial is ongoing?
Yes,
Is it happening now?
this trial is ongoing. And the thing about, I didn't know that there were these terrorist watch lists.
Private lists, you mean?
Yeah, private terrorist watch lists that companies keep.
It's creepy.
Yes, that's downright Orwellian. Like, that is a dystopian nightmare. And this is exactly why we shouldn't have... This is the kind of targeting that you can do when they step outside of their bounds. Like, they're supposed to be providing a service. That's all they're supposed to be doing, is connecting Group A with Group B. They're not supposed to be determining what the law is and when people have broken the law. That's not their job. That's not their function. There's actually supposed to be a difference between a government agency and a company.
The lines have been blurring for
They're
years.
just following the government's definition of servicing. You're getting serviced, all right.
Yeah, we sure are.
We saw the evidence, I don't know, last year or sometime that Facebook had teamed up with the Department of Health and Human Services, I think, or Fauci's group, NIH or whatever it is, in early 2020 before COVID hit. And they were already pimping out the government's official lines on stuff. They gave them, I think, $2 million worth of free advertising back then. So again, the lines are very blurred between these big tech companies and the state.
And that's the disturbing thing about this, is that big tech is now mirroring the actions of the police state.
Sure. Let's go to the phones here. Unscreened call. You are on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, this is Bob from West Virginia.
Bob.
I'm sure you all have heard that they've increased the IRS's enforcement division by 87,000.
87,000.
Well, that's their intention. I mean, whether or not they're actually going to be able to hire that many people.
Because that'll stop inflation.
Hashtag don't take that job.
Right. Well, what they're saying is the Congressional Budget Office is saying that they will harvest an extra $20 billion. From
harvest, as if you're a crop.
That's right.
That's what the government thinks of you.
That's right.
You're
Well,
a
that
plant
wording
grown
is
for
very
them to
honest.
be harvested.
Right, they're saying they're not going after people that make under $400,000.
Straight up lie.
Yeah, and in fact, I believe
small business.
I believe I read that the United States government had a record year in revenue collection last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard
So
and a new one this year.
So
they have been breaking records over and over again. They have a tremendous amount of money.
But this is the Inflation Reduction Act. You must remember.
Yeah, well, it's just an act,
inflation to
so
calm down.
Yeah, if you believe that it's going to reduce inflation, I got a bridge to sell you.
Right.
Well, they haven't taken Economics 101 yet.
Indeed.
No, they never will.
Yeah, and one of the most obvious things about this is, okay, well, if you change the enforcement, people are going to change their activity. So, like, even if you manage to, like, get more enforcement, get more of these laws enforced, okay, you're just going to drive more of the workforce overseas.
Right, and it's going to cause a lot of small businesses to not invest, not take chances when they have an opportunity to hire more people and to create more goods and services. And what they're doing is destroying small businesses, because they're the under $400,000 a year in a small business is not very much.
Right. True.
And you've got 50 maybe employees or whatever. These are down home.
Well, this
folks,
is part of what
just
they started doing under COVID. They were destroying small businesses there by forcing them to shut down under the threat of violence and allowing Walmart and Target and the rest of them to continue operating. And this is the same thing. They're shoving people out of business, the mom and pops, and they want only corporate overlords after that. Bob, great thoughts. Anything else you want to share?
Well, I'm glad that y'all are on top of things.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your call tonight. Glad we could get you in here. And also Major Payne here with what should be the final words here of the night. Go ahead, Major.
Boys, I'm going to go antiquity on you. The first war that was fought, the government was unleashed on our citizenry, was when King George wanted to grow hemp for his sails. I can't remember what the conflict was called. The second war that was inflicted upon our citizenry was the Whiskey Rebellion. When the Scotch Irish had figured out a way to get over the Appalachians and grow some corn, they figured a way that they could put 7 to 10 bushels of corn into a whiskey jug and therefore take it to market on 3 meals.
Yep.
And the point of all of this is to make sure that the individual does not have power. Because if the individuals have wealth, then the individuals have power, and that's not what they want.
No doubt about it. Thank you, Major, for the call tonight. So, of course, one of the things you can do that we recommend here is get your value out of their money and put it somewhere else where you have control, like alternatives like precious metals, cryptocurrency. Check out bitcoin.com, bullionmax.com/FTL, and we'll see you tomorrow night. freetalklive.com in the meantime.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative.